It's been a tough year for college applicants due to the pandemic. Area colleges still finalizing decisions. Should the wait list be something students have expected with 2020 students delaying admissions? We wanted to put together a small panel here to try to help out and get some of these questions answered. Joining us this morning is Natalie Coburn, who is the mother to a Fairfax County High School senior going through that process, and higher education expert Frederick Lawrence joins me as well to weigh in on the current process. Good morning to both of you. Natalie, I want to start with you, and Mr. Lawrence, we'll get to you in just a second with some of your expertise. But Natalie, I want to hear from you how the process has been going.
Well, it's a stressful time for everybody, but for college seniors, there's the added stress of going through all this without, oftentimes people get to visit the colleges they are looking at. But in this case, my daughter was looking at schools virtually, which is unusual. And you wonder to what extent a student then is really responding to the visual presentation on the screen versus whether or not they would actually click with a school. And she also had her SATs canceled 4 times, including the night before when this all began back in March of 2020. And that was a very stressful process for her to see whether or not she would get to take it at all. We were lucky that Fairfax County opened up the schools in September to allow all juniors at that time, all seniors to come in and take the test because it was the unknown that bothered everybody.
Sure.
Are we at a disadvantage if our kids the students were worried that they would be at a disadvantage. If other kids in Florida are able to take the SAT, but kids in Virginia and Maryland can't, does that put us at a disadvantage?
And it's a great point. I want to bring in Frederick Lawrence right now, and we should mention, we've talked with Mr. Lawrence multiple times here, Georgetown law professor, but also a former university president up in Massachusetts. You just heard what Natalie was talking about some of those challenges, and it's not just here, but, she brings out that great point that you're competing now with students across the country to get into some of these universities. What advice do you have for her or for other parents and students that might be in the same position?
Steve, what Natalie's describing is very common this year, and it has been incredibly stressful. And really, our hearts go out to these high school juniors and now seniors who are supposed to be going through a process that's supposed to be a little anxiety-producing, but exciting. This is when you visit schools with your parents, your family members, and you think about what's coming next. This has been incredibly stress-producing. The thing I would try to tell the parents, to tell the students, and this is hard advice to give the parents, harder still to pass on to the students, is you got to look at the end of the process. This is a story with a happy ending for the vast majority of students. We just don't know what the ending is yet. One of the things that's creating stress is that there is so much uncertainty on the college and university side. We don't know how many international students are coming back. We don't know how many of those kids who deferred last year are going to come back. We don't know how many kids who are going to defer this year. Here's what we do know. We know that roughly the same number of applicants, about 2% more than last year, are producing more than 10% more applications. So it feels like there's a lot more happening. But when the dust all settles, it is going to be roughly the same number of students looking through roughly the same number of seats in classes. So it is going to settle roughly where it always has.
It always comes down to timing, though, and you're absolutely right. And you can work the numbers, but the bottom line is these universities, whether they be the local universities or some of the most prestigious in the country, the amount of applications they're getting are up from previous years. We only have about a minute left, but what I want to do is, Natalie, I want to give you the opportunity, if you have a question for Mr. Lawrence, to go ahead and ask that now, maybe something that can help you or other parents.
How should a parent address, getting into different places and not being able to visit? How can you get a real sense of a school without actually being able to be on the campus?
Great question. It's very hard. I think the schools will provide ways for students to be in touch electronically or on Zoom with current students. That's often a very good way, particularly if they're friends from their high school whom they got along with, who have somewhat similar views of the world. Find out where those kids went, and the guidance departments should be able to help you do that. ask the kid 2 years ahead of you, 1 year ahead of you, what did you think of Penn, or what did you think of University of Virginia? What did you think of George Mason? And get a feel that way. But it is going to be hard. Try to help them remember that there are a lot of wonderful schools in this country and that this is going to end well for them. They just have to be patient to get there. And patience is very tough. I know that, but they're going to get there.
We're going to end this conversation for now, but I promise you we'll continue it in the future because I know it impacts so many people across the area. We thank you both for your time this morning. Natalie Coburn, who is the parent of a student in Fairfax County, and also Frederick Lawrence, who joins us now and from time to time as an educational expert. Thank you both, and best wishes to both.
Take care.